that he's having to deal with as well. And his job is, of course, to protect consumers, but more importantly, to look after our farmers in the state. Section 13.6, you're going to see a little bit of a change from the governor's recommendation there dealing with soil and water conservation. He had originally asked to put it as a program under the Department of Ag, and what we've gone back and agreed to is to do soil and water as an attached agency under the Department of Ag. So as you move to 13.8, 13.9, and 13.10, you will see those transactions move there. Due to the administrative attachment, there is some savings that can be realized, about $302,000. That $302,000 you'll see reappear at 13.95 and 13.105, where those savings will be put back in to be pushed down to the local districts where they're doing educational activities, where they are required to have an office and a person there in that office to carry out the responsibilities of the state. Having been a former district conservationist on the district board, we had to do a lot of local fundraising to pay for those activities that were required by the state, so this is just going to help go toward that. Section 14, banking and finance, no changes. Section 15, behavioral health. Looking at 15.2.7, 75 additional slots for now and comp waivers. Actually, it'll break down to 60 now waivers and 15 comp waivers there. 15.2.8, just saying yes, you use existing funds for deaf appropriate services. 15.3.3, this is a 2% pay increase for the ladies and gentlemen that work in our HSTs and FST facilities. Basically, these are violent criminal offenders that are mentally unstable and are in hospital, and these are the prison guards that look after those folks. And we've got a turnover rate currently of about 60% per year, so we're trying to stem that tide of that turnover there. 15.4.6, several of y'all have talked to us about Grady and the psychiatric beds there, crisis stabilization unit beds there. Funding 8 additional beds for that facility, and that's something that they direly need. They are kind of the repository for the Atlanta area, and so they're kind of the first line of service that folks see. Moving on over to Department of Community Affairs, 16.2.4. Under coordinated planning, you'll see a small increase of $50,000 there for some environmental program activities the subcommittee brought to us they felt were important. Still under section 16, dealing with 16.12.1. As we continue into the water war with Florida and Alabama, Atlanta plays a big piece in that, especially as it affects southwest Georgia and our agricultural water use down that way. As we better plan in the Atlanta area for water use, that means good things for us in southwest Georgia. And so we've put some additional funds there for some additional water planning for the Metro North Georgia Water Planning District. 16.13.5 is a reduction that mirrors our annual amended fiscal year 15 budget, some savings that were attainable through fuel savings and through a reduction in personnel there as well. Section 17, Department of Community Health. See a few changes starting at 17.15. We just said no to that reduction. However, 17.1.6 deals with the contract getting ready for the rebid of the CMO contracts. I'll address that just a little bit more here in just a second. 17.1.7, I'd made a open records request. Most of the information that was sent to us was redacted, so it was useless, but I did get a bill for $25. So we're just saying that we want our $25 back. Y'all didn't think I had a sense of humor. 17.2.4 and 17.3.4, the subcommittee felt that those reductions were not necessary at this time. 17.4.5 would be adding one federally qualified health center in Wheeler County where a hospital closed a couple of years ago. 17.4.6, $3 million there to help fund our new rural hospital stabilization plan. The pilot program that the governor rolled out on Monday will deal with 4 hospitals in a hub and spoke model, and the Hancock County ambulance pilot program that we saw yesterday on the telemedicine demonstration as well. So we're excited about that, looking forward to some good results there, and think that the things we're going to do there are going to help save some of our struggling hospitals. 17.7.10, there are some new technologies on the hepatitis C drugs. However, getting a solid number on that amount is difficult. And what we're saying here is just use existing funds, and you'll see this in 3 different places. You see it here, you see it in SHBP, and you see it also in corrections. So we've just told them to use existing funds. We'll have better data later that we can come back in and look at and know what we need to do there. 17.7.11 deals with that voluntary case management program, the CMO, a portion of the CMO rebid process. The Medicaid director is not, or they have a new Medicaid director. It's been postponed several times already. So we're just saying let that new director kind of get their feet under them and know what we need to be doing there. 17.7.12 is a 50 cents per hour rate increase for personal support services dealing with the independent care waiver program. No raise in 14 years. Those aides are typically paid less than $8 an hour, or you probably pay a teenager to be a babysitter for less than that, or about that same price. And these individuals have a much harder job than what a babysitter does, considering, I guess. 17.8.13, just a true up on the FMAP percentage change there. 17.8.14, if you recall, there's been a temporary Medicaid bump to the Medicare rate for a lot of the primary physicians and pediatricians and those folks, but OBGYNs were not included in that amount. And so what we're saying here is to go in and do that bump for those OBGYNs. And you'll also see at 17.8.16 some of the primary codes as well that are going away due to those federal funds going away. We're aiming those primarily at pediatricians. 17.18.5, dealing with rotary wing ambulance transport. Currently, if you're over 18 or below 62 and air transport carries you on a Medicaid claim, the air transport gets nothing. They don't even get the ground rate. And so what we've been working for the last couple of years is to at least get them the ground rate for transportation there. 17.10.8, 17.10.9 are 2 things or 2 items. I'm sure many of you have gotten letters with keys attached, pencils, spoons, and a bunch of emails dealing with the non-certificated employees within our school system, our bus drivers, our cafeteria workers, our part-time paraprofessionals, custodians, many other folks there. What we're saying there at 17.10.8, the governor had said to delay the implementation of the additional $150 per member per month that the local systems would pick up. We're saying go ahead and allow that to kick in. And then 17.10.9, the governor had requested to eliminate coverage for those employees beginning January 1. We're saying no to that we feel like that there's a vital role those individuals play in transporting our students and caring for our students while they're in the possession of the school system during the day. 17.10.10, again, dealing with hepatitis C. 17.10.11, the realized savings through 17.10.10 is rolling into the OPEB. We do have a considerable liability for other post-employment benefits for our employees, and so we're trying to start backfilling that. 17.10.12, a small reduction in what the bariatric pilot program. We had set a cap of 75 individuals per year on that, and we're just saying stay within that cap. 17.10.13 is another pilot program dealing with telemedicine. Right now, SHBP does not have authorization to make some of the payments for those vendors providers that are seeing patients via telemedicine. We're just saying, yes, it's okay to take care of those folks when they see someone via telemedicine instead of face-to-face. 1711.4, going back to our position on the amended 15 budget, saying one position there at the board physician workforce, and that is a data analyst that will track where physicians are in the state. That will be a key piece of what we're doing with the rural hospital program as well. 1712.14, raising the capitation on the residency grants to $500 in state funds, which provides a 2-to-1 match. So that'll be $1,500 that those individuals will have that helps pay for their expenses while they're doing their residencies out in the state. 1713.1, dealing with clinical rotations. Dr. Gene Sumner that you saw on the telemedicine thing yesterday morning will be heading up a new rural hospital rotation program. She now looks after rural hospitals and rural health for Mercer. She'll be heading up that program there. And then 1713.2 is another piece of that, dealing with Mercer. Mercer has instituted a 3-year MD program instead of a 4-year program. They're very selective on the individuals that they pick for that, and it's getting some physicians out into the underserved areas of our state considerably quicker than what it would otherwise. Size per class will go from 2 to 6, so there'll be 18 total students in that program. Looking at 1714.2, just agreeing with the governor there. Again, as we're trying to stabilize the funding for Morehouse and federal funds that they're able to use, there are certain things that we're having to do internally to allow that to happen, so that's a piece of that. 1715.3, in 2008, there was a rural dentist program that was phased out at that point in time. What we've done there, the subcommittee is saying come back in and provide 8 awards at $20,000 each, and basically it's service counselable loans. On 1715.4, again, dealing with the Mercer Memorial Healthcare Partnership and the 3-year Accelerated Family Medicine Program, a small ad there for that. Under 17.6.1, we've also been doing some work on osteopathic medicine and physicians going into that. Philadelphia College of Osteopathic Medicine has been working with us on that. We started a program a couple of years ago, and so what we've done is gone from 5 slots to 10 slots. Excuse me for just a second. It's been a very successful program and partnership. 1718.5, dealing with prescription drug monitoring program. The federal funds are going away. However, Chairman Parrish and his subcommittee feel it's very important we continue to do that program. If we didn't, we would be one of only two states that does not have that monitoring program. It has been one that's been very successful as well. Section 18, Department of Corrections, 18.1.1. County jail subsidy. As criminal justice reform has continued to prove extremely successful in our state, the need to house prisoners in county institutions has dwindled. So we're just reflecting our cut that we'd placed in the amended 15 budget there as well. 18.5.6 is the third leg of the hepatitis C piece. That pretty much wraps up corrections. No changes in Department of Defense. Department of Driver Services, only some minor changes there. 20.2.9, a reduction of $300,000 for one-time funds dealing with them getting into a new building. There actually will be, there's a bond included in the package for their new facility, so those funds will not be necessary going forward. 20.2.10 is just a reduction for the actual operating expenses of the new center we opened in Bainbridge last year. And then 20.2.1 is just allowing them to use the rent. The building they're moving into will be big enough that they can actually rent some space in Georgia United Credit Union. And so they'll be paying about $50,000 in rent annually, and we're just saying that they can use that for upkeep of the building. No changes in Department of Early Care and Learning. Next changes you'll see are in Section 22, Economic Development. On 22.1.5, just a slight reduction for actual expenses there. 22.8.5, a reduction of the ad. Moving on to section 23, Department of Education. Under 23.1.6, we have two programs that are funded through the Department of Education that have extended year, extended day tied to them. One is ag education, the other is career technical education. We're making ads in both of them for extended day, extended year. And then one of the young farmer positions that has been part-time in Turner County will be going to full-time there. And with that, we'll note that in that the county pays a significant portion of that as well. 23.4.5, just a reduction of one-time planning grants. Communities and schools at 23.5.1, a small addition there that pulls down a 10-to-1 federal match, or federal match and local funds raised match as well. 2311.4, an adjustment for the residential treatment facilities and a true up based on the actual earnings and later information there. 23.14.1, one of the things that we worked on in the amended budget and that we've carried forward into this budget was there was a shortfall in the equalization formula. And what we've been able to do from the funds that we pushed through the amended budget and additional funds we found here is to fully fund equalization. That number is actually about $27 million total when you add the 2 years together. 2315.1, again, just a true up in the numbers there. 2316.1 under QBE, another true up. 2316.2, you'll see a reduction there, but it does roll into the dual enrollment in another place. And so it's not actually a cut to move on when ready. It's just that we've had a dual enrollment task force that has met all summer and is making some recommendations to streamline it, Excel, and dual enrollment, move on when ready, and Excel programs to consolidate some of those services together to make them less complicated and easier to understand by students, parents, teachers, and advisors. 2317.2. You'll see that actually ties to 2318.7 under school improvement. We're just saying put those 17 teacher and leader effectiveness support positions at the RESAs. They're currently doing that under Race to the Top funds. Those funds will be going away. So we're saying that that's where that should be housed there. 2317.3, a small add of $250,000 for the positive behavioral intervention supports trainers. We started that last year, and it has significantly reduced the number of in-school and out-of-school suspensions that have been necessary. 2318.7 again is dealing with moving those 17 support positions to RESAs. 23.22.7 is the additional funds for extended day, extended year on career technical education. ERS, no changes. Next changes you'll see will be in Forestry Commission. 25.2.4 and 25.3.4, Chairman Houston and her subcommittee started last year making some adjustments as kind of a pay parity issue with some of our forestry folks that we were losing faster than we were able to hire them, and so that's another piece of that position or program that they've been working on there. Section 26, Office of the Governor. They had about $200,000 in existing funds. We're just saying that they can convert those over to use for personal services. Under the Office of Child Advocate, 26.4.4, providing funds for one DFACS investigator because of the rise in DFACS caseloads. Move on to 26.12.8. and 26.12.10. Chairman Dixon and his subcommittee looked at these ads and drilled down on them a little bit more and talked with the Governor's Office of Student Achievement and reached an agreement that these would be funds that could be best utilized this year, and we'll continue to look at that as we continue to push for greater STEM education and in the K-3 reading program where we're trying to get kids up to third grade reading level by third grade. And so the governor and the first lady have really worked hard on that, and I applaud their efforts, and I think we all do, especially the first lady's heart for children. It's been amazing for me to watch. Under Section 27, Department of Human Services, 27.3.4, we're saying do away with the health survey program. Those results from those surveys are unreliable, and so we just felt like that since we couldn't get good data from that, it was not necessary to continue to spend that money. 27.6.2, court-appointed special advocates. We all have those in our district, and they've seen some greatly increased expenditures based on some new background checks that they're supposed to be doing, and so what we've done there is do a $120,000 add, annualized part of what we've done in the amended, and some addition in this budget. 27.10.5, under elder abuse, trying to convert them over with technology, basically start using tablets. They're still on a paper system there. And we do have an obligation on federal regulations that we make sure that they're up to speed completely there. 2611.6, home and community-based services. These are your councils on aging across our state that provide services to homebound folks that if we can keep them in their home, number one, they're happier. Number two, if they're not in the nursing home, it's much cheaper for all of us and a better life for them if they're at home. There are about 13,200 seniors on that waiting list right now. This should provide funds to take 750 of those off. 2711.7 deals with the Alzheimer-related dementia state plan and putting a coordinator position in for that as well. Moving on over to 27.23.1, Family Connection. When we started budget cuts in 2009, 2010, these 8 local agencies were getting about $49,000 apiece. Chair Lady Dempsey and her committee felt a real need for the work that these folks do. They deal with battered women, displaced families, and so we've done a $1,000 per year increase to the counties. It's about a $159,000 add. Bless you. 27.28. Some supported employment issues for those individuals among us that want to work, they're able to work, but without some assistance they can't work. So this is going to draw down a considerable federal sum to go with it to put more of those individuals in our workplace. 27.28.8 were one-time funds. We've just made that reduction. Office Insurance Commissioner, no changes. Section 29, GBI. You'll see an add there of $1.6 million under 29.4.5, and that is some of the startup money needed for those investigators to look into elder abuse cases. Moving on to no changes in juvenile justice. Department of Labor, 31.4.4. As our economic development folks go out and recruit industry to the state, the Department of Labor plays a key role in that, in helping these companies that are coming into the state look for qualified individuals for them to interview. And so that has been a very successful program under the Department of Labor. They'd asked for 6 positions. We're only allowing for 3 in this customized recruitment program. Nothing in the Department of Law. Next section will be DNR, Section 33. A reduction of one-time funds at 33.7.7 of $548,000. Pardons and paroles, no changes. State properties, no changes. Next changes, you'll see some small changes in Section 36 dealing with assistant public defenders. On 36.2.5, that annualizes the 2 new judgeships from last year. 36.2.6 is a quarter-year funding for the Western Circuit. And then 36.2.7 is a salary enhancement there for the public defenders as well. 37.1.3 under public health. GeorgiaCancerInfo.org website, which is our partners at CORE. They're trying to get their website updated, and these dollars we put in will be matched 1-to-1 with private dollars. Looking at 37.4.3, you'll see over at 3714.3, that is basically a move of those responsibilities from the Trauma Care Network Commission over to the Emergency Preparedness Trauma System. It's just a move and of where they'll be housed and the obligations that they have to complete. 37.7.3 is a small ad for the Comprehensive Sickle Cell Center at Grady of $50,000. And then 37.7.4 deals with children that have congenital disorders. And what this will do is provide medically necessary food for some of these children that the families can't afford it at this point in time. 37.11.4, a House initiative that we've done over the last several years. The governor realized the importance of it, went ahead and included it in his proposal of the grant and aid formulas to the county public health departments. This is year 5 of a 7-year plan. That's recognizing it there. 37.14.3 is the move that I mentioned earlier. Moving on to public safety. 38.1.5, a relocation of one of the State Patrol helicopters to the Perry Airport. Locals are providing the majority of the funding here, but it did require a small state match, so you'll see that ad there. Moving on to Public Service Commission, 39.1.4, and I want to thank Chair Lady Houston's subcommittee and especially Representative Dudgeon for his work on this particular item. PSC is woefully behind in some of their technology and infrastructure needs, and Representative Dudgeon has been kind enough to go over and look at it and see what they need and some of the things we'll need to be doing in the future, but for the time being, there are some critical things that they need to purchase, and that $100,000 will cover that. 39.3.4, in the amended 15 budget, we had started a position for the utilities cost analyst for the Plant Vogel project. This just annualizes that. And also, as we're starting to see the emergence of renewable energy technologies, there is the need for an investigator and an analyst there to deal with those expanding technologies that they'll be dealing with. Section 40, Board of Regents, 40.1.4, through the budget cuts and actually in years prior to that, College of Ag and Experiment Stations, which represent our #1 industry in the state, had taken some significant reductions and lost many critical scientist positions. And what we're saying there is there are 3 that are necessary. The dean has brought a list of prioritized asks, and so what we're doing there is including those. 40.3.4, we're agreeing with the governor's add of 6 extension agents. However, we are making a slight language change to allow the dean to assign those to the most critical counties where they're needed. 40.4.4 deals with the Advanced Technology Development Center, ATDC. Some of the work that they're doing over there, Chairman Earhart and his committee looked at that and some of the wonderful things that they're doing over there in helping startup companies get rolling and provide jobs in our state. So we've got a small increase there as well. 40.5.4. The Warnell School of Forestry at the University of Georgia has been one that we've they've kind of flown under the radar for several years, and we've not been able to help them. They participated in cuts through the years, but we've never looked at going back and taking care of some of the things that they need to replace there. So you'll see 3 specialist positions added there for them. 40.14.4, Georgia Youth and Science Technology Center. They're doing a lot of work with STEM education across the state and continuing to, after they kind of went through some tough times a few years ago, continuing to grow and blossom there and do a wonderful and outstanding job. 40.14.5, and just reducing the one-time funds for curriculum development. And then you'll see that also within that you've got the money going into the Film Academy at 40.14.3. Looking at 40.14.6, you'll see a deduction there in graduate medical education. That's basically a transfer and not a cut. Going on to next change is going to be 40.17.12, dealing with the Military and Academic Training Center at Warner Robins, making sure that we're adequately funding them for the work they're doing, and in trying to ensure that we keep Robins Air Force Base here in the state of Georgia under the next round of cuts. 40.17.13, an expansion of North Georgia College, looking to branch out a little bit. And then 40.17.14 is some statewide economic extension activities that were needed. 40.20.7, 40.20.6 and .7. Georgia Military College, not only do they have a preparatory school there, they also have the college there, as many of you know, and they've not received enrollment growth funds in several years. And actually, before the downturn in the economy, they were not receiving growth funds, and so that's what we're trying to do there. 40.2.7, they'd asked for a bond project for renovation of historic Jenkins Hall. We're just saying use cash instead of a bond. 40.21.6, an ad there for mobile production expenses. That deals with a lot of the mobile things that GP Television, Georgia Public Television, doing across the state. They're not asking to purchase the HD technology at this time because it's changing so fast, but they do have to convert from standard definition technology to high definition, and it's driven their expenses up considerably. Going on to Section 41, Department of Revenue. 41.11.5, our new commissioner, former colleague and new commissioner over there, working with our majority leader, looking at 3 pilot projects based on some of the a former pilot project that we'd done, looking at comparative data. And what they've asked there is for 3 pilot projects dealing with 9 auditors for income tax and 6 auditors for state sales tax. And within the income tax, I think it's 2 different pilot programs within that. Expect a significant return on that investment as we go forward. Secretary of State, Section 42. 42.2.5 and 42.3.6 are linked transactions. We'd actually started these positions in the amended 15 budget and realized 2 of those positions should have been in an investigations division instead of the elections division, so what we've done there is made that correction. Moving on to Section 43, Soil and Water. As I mentioned when we were talking about Department of Ag, the 3 divisions that have been moved over there is administratively attached are Commission Administration, Conservation of Agricultural Water Supplies, and Conservation of Soil and Water Resources. Those go to the Department of Ag. The duties of flood control, watershed structures, and water resource and land use planning have moved to EPD. 44.2 under Student Finance. Many of you have talked to us about the proposed reduction in the engineering scholarship and elimination of that program. However, that was a program that was added many years ago by the General Assembly with a partnership with Mercer. It has been extremely effective, especially as it goes to providing engineers for Robins Air Force Base. So again, we want to make sure that we do nothing to jeopardize the Air Force Base there and the jobs that it creates. And so what we've done is said no to the reduction and added for the actual growth there as well. 44.10 and 44.11 deal with low interest loans. Chairman Earhart and his subcommittee have been looking at both of these programs considerably. They're very important as some of the changes we made to HOPE a couple of years ago to allow access for individuals to our institutions of higher learning. He has looked into it and found a fairly high default rate, especially when it comes to deal with our for-profit private institutions. And so what he's done there and his subcommittee are planning on working over the summer with student finance to make some adjustments in the qualifications to make sure that those individuals which deserve to get those loans actually receive those loans. Section 45, teacher retirement system, no changes. TCSG under section 46. 46.4.7, there were some additional savings that can be realized there from the merger of Moultrie Tech and Southwest Georgia Tech. So we've taken a little bit of an additional savings amount there as well. Under transportation, of course, has been the hot topic. That might be an understatement as well. Chairman Roberts has done yeoman's work on this over the summer. I've had the pleasure of working with him, as have several others of us. Transportation overall, when you look at state funds that are going in either to backfill reductions proposed, to go to cover debt service for new debt that is proposed to be issued as well, when you look at everything bundled together, there's $55.9 million, almost $56 million in new cash going to transportation in this budget. If you consider the bonds and the cash together, you're looking at almost $266 million of money going towards transportation. 47.3.2, 4.2, and 5.2 a recognition of prior year motor fuel funds that were not realized. 47.6.4 is backfilling the proposed reduction in airport aid and adding a little bit there to get us ahead. Those are federal match dollars. 47.12.2 and 12.3. CERTA had been told to make some bond payments or some debt service payments, and what we've done there is say do not use your infrastructure bank money to make those. Actually, we're putting state cash in to make those payments for them. Veteran services, 48.2.6. There was a proposed change there, and 48.3.5. Those are items that we took care of in the amended budget, so they're not necessary in the big 16 budget. Workers' comp, no changes. The bond package is at the back. I'm sure many of you may have already been reading ahead. The bond package in section 50 is kind of like the Bible. That's Revelation. There are a couple of things I do want to point out. Since the governor's proposed budget had come out, there were a couple of changes that he or OPB had asked us to propose to make. And the first of those is at 50.2.3.28, and that is providing the funding for the Fine Arts Center at Albany State. That transaction is tied as well to 50.2.382 and 50.2.3104. And that's where the bond funds came for to pay for that project. One is reservoir money. The other is a project dealing with the Department of Juvenile Justice and renovations of the Cadwell RYDC. One other small change requested by an agency is at 50.2.3.108 and 109. Forestry had one lump sum bond put in. They asked that it be split up into two different bonds for a couple of different projects. One still deals with MR&R, and the other is a replacement of a building and some equipment at the North Bryan Forestry Unit in Pembroke. Mr. Chairman, it's a little warm in here. I'll be glad to take questions. We've got a few minutes before rules is scheduled to meet. And if there are no questions, I think you'll be glad to accept a motion as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, thank you for your work. Thank you, subcommittee members, for all your work, the chairmans and then the staff. We certainly appreciate the hard work that's gone through this and the 6:30 morning meetings that we've enjoyed. Do we have any questions from the committee? If you push your button, we'll try to find you. Representative Seltzer. We're trying.
Just speak up. You got to turn on full mics on the.
I got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Chairman, I was referring to line 23.4.5 on charter school planning grants.
Yes, sir.
I know that was a cut that was not asked for by the governor. I just want to ask about that. I know that we've lost federal money over the last couple of years on that front.
Well, these were put in as one-time funds, and so typically when we do one-time fund adds in one budget, we take them back out in the next.
Thank you. Again, I just asked that. Over time, I know it's difficult for charters to, particularly the commissioner approving to get off the ground without the district support. Just something to consider moving forward.
Do we have any other questions? If not,
Have a motion.
all right, we have a motion for, and we have a second for a due pass on House Bill 76. Do we have any other questions? All right, we'll call for the question then. All those in favor of House Bill 76 with a due pass recommendation, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Mr. Chairman, you have your bill.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
We're adjourned.